Governor Snyder, Jason Cooper here. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us today.
Good to be with you, Jason. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, sir. Before we get to 2015 accomplishments and your plans for 2016, a couple of other quick questions, if I may.
Sure.
Any updates you can give our listeners on the independent task force created to get to the bottom of what went wrong during the Flint water crisis?
Well, they're in the midst of their work, and actually we've had a number of good discussions with them, and they're doing their investigation. They just transmitted a letter to me asking for ways we can better coordinate things to work together with them. So I look forward to responding to that. So there is progress going on with that group, and I appreciate their hard work.
As you know, Flint had been in a financial emergency for almost 4 years, but they also exited the financial emergency, and now a receivership transition advisory board is in there as well. Do you look at that as one of your accomplishments for 2015, that Flint has gotten out of its financial mess?
Yeah, I view that as very much a positive thing. Again, my goal is not to have emergency managers whenever possible, but they can be important resources to have when needed. But the goal is to get them in to do their work and then hopefully successfully leave so the community can get back on its own with its own leadership. And so I think this has been a good process, and I hope it continues to move forward.
Have you heard anything from the new mayor of Flint? Have you've gotten to talk to her yet?
I haven't had a chance to sit down in person with her yet. I look forward to doing that. Our team has had a number of meetings with her in terms of different departments, different discussions, so I hope we can keep that path up because we want to partner. Good public service is all about taking care of our customers, which are all our citizens and the organizations in our state. So I want to try to be a good partner so we can give good service to people of Flint.
Any updates on your talks with Washington, D.C., more specifically the Departments of State and Homeland Security on Syrian refugees and the screening process that goes into bringing them to the U.S. and Michigan? As you know, the U.S. House passed some legislation yesterday with travel visas, and I know you've long supported bringing refugees and others into Michigan as a way to help Detroit and some other cities. So any updates on your talks with D.C.?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I still want to be proactive about having Michigan being a welcoming place for people to come, and we just need to make sure we're doing the appropriate balance working with the federal government on national security, dealing with terrorism. And I have had very constructive discussions with Washington, both Homeland Security, State, and the administration about what the processes are and procedures. We've exchanged a couple letters back and forth, and there'll be a couple more conversations coming up. One of the things I'm working with them on is actually leveraging something called the Council of Governors, which is a bipartisan group of governors to go through the process of how refugees come to the United States and other Homeland Security related issues and how we can better partner together and better communicate to our citizens.
You recently signed concealed carry legislation where prison guards and parole officers will be able to carry their weapons in places normally off limits. In light of events in recent weeks, such as the terrorist attacks in San Bernardino, what happened in Paris and other places in other countries, do you feel pretty positive about this legislation and feel comfortable? I know a couple of years ago you had some bills come to your desk that you ended up vetoing with concealed carry and schools and stuff like that. So talk a little bit about the concealed carry legislation and your thoughts there.
Yeah, well, the recent piece I signed was actually fairly limited, dealing with people from the corrections officers' ranks, and it was really a personal safety issue in terms of that particular attribute of it. In terms of the whole issue with mass violence in our country, it's a major concern. I think it's on everyone's mind today, whether it be terrorism or other forms of domestic violence. And one of the things we've tried to do, and I appreciate a partnership with the Attorney General on this one, is we created something called OK to Say, which is a hotline that you can dial in and people can provide information on what they consider could be threats in schools, everything from bullying to potentially more terrible violence in terms of guns and such. And we found that hotline to be very helpful in many respects, and we want to promote it out to people so they know there's a resource there. The other part is we've done a lot on the mental health front. to improve how we're looking at mental health issues in the state of Michigan, but there's more work to be done. So I would say we've made progress, but I want to continue this progress to keep us as safe as possible, particularly with our schools and every other place in our state.
Thanks for answering those, Governor Snyder. Let's move on to accomplishments for 2015. I bet you're glad you not have to talk about funding, road funding, or finding a road funding solution any longer. Of course, the legislature finally came up with a plan for a road funding solution.
Yeah, and that was very positive progress. Again, it was a compromise piece of legislation, but it was a great accomplishment, and it was the largest piece of progress we've made in transportation in decades. So this gives us an opportunity to invest more in our roads, and that's critically important to, first of all, our safety, but also job creation in our state. So it's good to see we can move forward now, and we're continuing to see good job growth in Michigan. We actually ranked number 5 in the country over the last few years in private sector job creation, but more work to be done.
You know, I was talking with the state legislator yesterday, State Rep Joe Graves, and asking him what he was proud of, and he brought up job creation and also unemployment being at its lowest in 15 years. Talk a little bit about that for our listeners.
Yeah, well, it's great. When I came into office back in 2011, the unemployment rate was over 11%. It was 11.2%, and historically we'd been either 49th or 50th in terms of having the worst unemployment rate in the country. And we've essentially tied the national average now. We're at 5%, which is huge progress and much better progress in terms of rate of improvement than the rest of the country. So I think we have done a good job of helping create the environment in the public sector. We help, define tax policy, regulatory policy, help promote the state. And we've seen a lot of growth of Michigan companies and companies coming to Michigan, and that's exciting. But there's more opportunity. This is particularly things like the skilled trades.
Mm-hmm.
That's where career tech education is a huge priority of mine, because there's a number of great, well-paying jobs out there that aren't being filled, and we need more young people to look at going into those careers, or people looking for that next career to say this is the place to go.
And one of the highlights, you created the Department of Talent and Economic Development, also Talent Investment Agency, to close that skills gap, and invested close to $85 million for skilled trades to help with job growth here.
Yeah, and that's been an important investment, and I want to see us continue to emphasize that. I view it as one of our greatest opportunities to help people make a better living, and it's something that's critically important. The place that does the best around the country in terms of having the most people with the right skills is going to be very successful, and historically we've been the best, but we need to keep that up in terms of skilled tradespeople in particular.
What are some of your plans for 2016? I know I had read quite a bit about maybe some hopes of helping Detroit public schools and also overhauling the state's energy policy. Are those on the top of your agenda for 2016?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are things that we started this year that we need to continue up and hopefully finish with great policy positions, particularly in things like energy, as you mentioned. We've got an opportunity to define a policy for the next 20, 30 years that will make Michigan better and stronger. It's about more affordable energy, more reliable energy, and more environmentally responsible and sustainable energy. And the good part is we're on that path, but let's get that finalized. And then education in Detroit is a big opportunity that the kids there deserve better. Whether they're in public school or a charter school, we can improve there. And so it's time to really look at that question and put a long-term solution in place. So these are important issues. So we're going to keep plugging ahead.
Any other things you'd like to share with our listeners for 2016 at the top of your list besides those two?
Well, we'll have a new list, actually, for the state of the state in January, and that'll be a good kickoff to go along with the things we've already discussed. You should be proud, particularly up in the Flint area. There are some great programs that I hope to see continue and grow, such as First Robotics, which is helping young people become more interested in science, technology, engineering, and math, and these skilled trades. And the Flint area is a real leader. Kettering University has done a fabulous job, so a big shout-out to them for the work they've done in that area.
I think that's the last place we had our last face-to-face conversation. So I know you were over there with First Robotics, and they are doing a great job at Kettering. Governor Snyder, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. Wishing you and your family a happy holiday season. Look forward to future conversations in 2016.
Yeah, happy holidays to you and all your listeners. It's great to be with you.